Probably didn't meet. It's good to see you again.
Right?
Now I see where my brain is. I only use this to make notes.
Okay, we ready to roll? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee for Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Big crowd tonight, yes.
You must be real popular.
Yeah, we're real popular. First on the agenda we have item 2A, which is approved minutes of November 2, 2023. Hopefully everyone has read those minutes. They're pretty straightforward. We voted to approve minutes at that meeting, and there we go. We have a motion on that?
I move we accept the minutes of November 2nd, 2023.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
I abstained too. I wasn't here.
Do you have an extra agenda down there?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. You're going to abstain, and you abstain, okay. All in favor? Aye. And John and Laura abstain, okay. Okay, next item on the agenda.
Let's make sure we have the right count.
72 abstentions. Who made the motion?
I made the motion,
Yeah.
And Dave seconded.
Dave second.
and the better looking version of me seconded.
Is there a better looking version?
No.
9 to 0 to 2.
Let's be real.
9 to 0 2, yes.
Yes.
Oh, sure. 9.
Well, actually, that's not my bag, but that's fine.
See the tables.
Yep.
Now we just have 12.
You come in after the vote. Okay, next item on the agenda is,
That was nice and bright.
do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, first on here for the public hearing, we have the town budget.
You want to make me up front?
Yeah, I'll tell everyone that right now. Cedar Hill will not be here tonight. Victor sent me an email and stating he couldn't make it for tonight. It was already on the agenda, had already been advertised, so there was really no way to undo that. But that will come back at a later date. I think 3/14 is the date it'll be back. So everyone who's,
Mr. Chair,
excuse me,
when is it coming back?
314.
3/14.
Thank you.
So Cedar Hill will not be here tonight. 3/14 will be bringing that back. Okay, town budget, FY25 sewer department. Mr. Phil McNulty's here to present Article 8, sewer department enterprise fund budget.
My best.
Do you want to go up here, or what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Hey, you want to be in front of the camera?
Yeah, you want to be on camera, right?
Well, you know, it's just weird.
The budget's on page 56, the article
you.
is on page 4 of the warrant.
So we started with the listed the sewer budget.
Yes.
Will you, Mr. Chairman, presenting the FY25 sewer budget articles in collaboration with the town manager and assistant town manager. We have reviewed each line for efficiencies, include services to the Stoughton residents. We footnoted in the budget to highlight areas where the lines have changed significantly. For the sewer operating budget, essentially the FTE stayed the same from last year. The salaries increased about 2.9%, which is generally in line with collective bargaining agreement increases. And the expenses increased 2.4% using a conservative MWA assessment. If we use the preliminary assessment, the increase is essentially 0. So now we're carrying the conservative. Be happy to answer the questions.
Have any questions? Mr. Laurie?
Yeah, thank you, Juan.
Through you, Phil, I sent an email out to internally, because, you know, to our finance committee, because I was a little bit confused. I don't know, maybe it's just that I can't remember one year to the next, exactly how these things are set up. But, there's a department head, a superintendent, and I don't know the difference between those. Do you have is the organization structured so that we would understand, like, when you have like a 0.5 FTE, that we know where the other half is? And I just, you know, you see the word superintendent, and I think of that as being kind of,
It's not funded. That line doesn't have funding.
the 0.5?
The superintendent
No,
line.
superintendent does not have funding, even though they spent 28,000 already in 24. That was gonna be it.
Right, so I just don't know from an organizational point of view.
There is no superintendent in the,
Okay,
in this
so,
budget.
but the town has a superintendent, but it's just not in this budget?
he's the department head.
And you're split between water and sewer, right?
Yeah, everything's within water and sewer.
That's what I thought.
Water and sewer,
Yeah,
okay.
both the water and sewer, the FTEs went from, they went up 0.4 for the both the water and sewer.
Sorry.
No.
Zero, went up 0 for sewer, and it went up 0.4 on water.
But you do have no physical, well, I don't wanna,
Yeah.
no, I don't wanna I'll let you
Well,
finish. I
it's
have
just to
plenty
make
of
sure
time.
I'm crystal clear in my mind as to what I'm doing. I look at it and I just look at it and I take a double take, like, wait a minute, what am I reading? Because I don't know the difference between what the department head and the superintendent are, but it's not in the
That
budget, so.
that may be historical, when there used to be a superintendent
So
in
Phil,
sewer and water.
Do you have an answer on this? Can you clarify
I'm
this?
gonna be able to clarify some of what we leave a small amount of, if we open a road for a reason, for a utility reason, the water and sewer department does that, and we backfill it, we make the repair, we backfill it. There's a small percentage of time of, the DPW's superintendent and assistant to come back, cut the road, square it up, pave it, so. Because they help out with that,
They start dividing up the
small
budget.
percentages
Okay.
might lead to confusion.
So your answer is the superintendent line, which isn't funded, but they spent money last year even though there was no funding approved, is the DPW superintendent?
I believe so.
It's the second line, it's the one right under you,
No, that's,
cause it was 28,836 expended and there was nothing approved last year, so that in itself is a question, is who's that going to?
Are you looking at sewer or water?
Sewer.
Page
I'm on
56.
56,
56, second row down.
cause there's,
Well, 56 is.
Yeah, if you could provide some clarification
56
for
is
this?
water.
So what that is
56
it's just,
Hang on, I think we're getting an answer here.
what that is, it's just a misallocation, like, instead of
It says
some,
54,
whoever's
so I
paying
don't
the
know why.
payroll, instead of charging it to the department head line, they charge to the superintendent line. So you can see where the
yeah, well,
department head.
that was gonna be a question, how come he's only got $1,442 on his account?
So it was just incorrectly charged to the wrong line.
Thank you, Jamie, so that belongs in the that belongs in the department head line,
The 28.8,
thank you very much.
the
Thank you.
28.8 goes in the department line?
Yeah, on the department head.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. Mark, you have a question?
Yes, I know for people here and I know people at home that may be watching, if any of the speakers besides the one of the finance committee, if they could announce who they are, that would be awesome.
It's a great idea.
We probably should as well.
Right. Because we don't have.
We don't
We don't have
name
name tags this time.
We used to have name tags, we'll have to get them again.
Right. Just,
Thank you for that.
It's a budget cut.
The budget, yes.
Yeah, our budget.
you know, because the camera's only on one angle, so
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
she was talking from behind, so
Sure.
they could say who
That
it
would
is.
be-
Thank you.
So Jamie, would you like to announce your name then, so we know who said that then?
Do you want me to pull this?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, come on, show me this page, Jamie.
Jamie Velasquez, I'm the program coordinator for the water and sewer department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Any other questions or comments on this?
Yes. Yeah,
You have something, Mr. Coffey?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, through you to the members, I'll bet you the budget committee spent a day and a half trying to do what you're doing right now, to figure out this is allocated here, that's allocated there. We'd like you to consider for the structure, for the format for next year, to not go through this craziness. Put water and sewer together. I know they're enterprise funds, we can still break them out separately to comply with the law. But for the purpose of budget analysis, trying to figure out 1/3 person here, 2/3 person there, it's insanity. It's crazy. And nobody seems to, at least I don't, and we have the same questions every year, but the finance committee struggles with it as well. But to what end are we trying to make it this crazy? We can make it simpler and look at them combined. Just a suggestion for you to consider.
Thank you very much for that.
If I may one.
Sure.
This is something we get from DPW, and it's a list of all the people and his various departments, if you will. And it supposedly has all his employees and how the split goes, so you get the one person. The only thing is, last year we got this. This year, there's no water and sewer on here, which was on the last one. So it makes it, I just got this tape, that's why I haven't sent it out.
Looking, okay.
No, I didn't forward it out because I wanted to go through it first, and I found there were a lot of changes from last year as well, so, but a simple chart is,
We have that chart.
and I'm sure you do,
Do you mean an org chart?
huh?
Do you mean an organization chart?
Well, I mean,
That was
the org charts are nice, if you will, but, you know, when, and I give Paul credit, he sent this last year very quickly, and it was very helpful going through the budget. And when I asked him for it, and he'd come back very quick, and I noticed right away, because the one I thought was missing was him, but it was there, I just looked for a different word. And the nice thing is, this was alphabetical. I had to go searching through this like crazy to match them up, but it is very helpful to have. I'll send it out as it is for the DPW, but the water, everybody that was in water and sewer last year on this list disappeared.
Yeah,
But it is helpful to know where they are.
Yeah, so we did go through that, we have that, if you want
If you could send it, that would be great.
Yeah,
a hard copy right now.
I just gotta make copies.
Can you email a copy of it?
Email, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions or comments on
Yeah, I got a
Mr.
number.
Angelino?
Yeah. John Angelino, Finance Committee. For those of you at home that don't know.
Everybody knows you.
I'm gonna make, this is a general comment for all your budgets, where people have moved, or you've changed things around. I find it kind of misleading when you put in, when a person moves from a department, and you put that in at minus 100%, but when that person shows up in another department, you only see this year's, you don't see what they were last year in a different department. And you don't put it in as an add to that department, which it is. The line is left blank, and you have to go searching to see what that person is getting for a raise. And I do it because you wanna know what it is, but anyway, that's just a general comment throughout the budget. We have a new position here for an assistant superintendent. Item 10 says new position split between water 70% and sewer is 30%. It doesn't say that, but that's what you get when you go through the tool. And I'll be honest, I go into any budget session with the mindset of no new positions unless you can absolutely justify it. To me, that's my own opinion. So in this particular case, we're looking at a new person. We're looking at 25.5 for this year, which is for 3/10 of a position. I'd just like to hear the reasoning behind that.
Phil? Did you have an answer
So what was the
to the
question?
question on about the,
The new assistant superintendent.
Phil's asked me to address that question, Mr. Chairman, for you.
all right, thank you.
As many of you know, in the past year, our water source was seriously attacked. We could have lost water service for the rest of the year and had to have lived off of supplied water. One of the reasons for that was that we have one person running two very big businesses. And Phil right now is working on PFAS, on engineering, on raising money to pay for PFAS, and we just lacked the field supervision we needed. And that resulted in a foreman us some reality that we were terribly understaffed with field supervision. Phil is receiving millions of dollars of state aid. The pack of papers to get that aid from the state and federal government is 2 feet high. Following the new regulations is a full-time job. If we don't add to the field supervision, we're at risk of things happening to us in the future with all of our water pump stations. We also had a very significant close call in health and safety that could have cost this town millions of dollars because we did not have field supervision. We're a very thinly structured organization that does very dangerous construction and produces millions of gallons of water a day. That's what this is about. It's the one person that we're hiring to manage field supervision for water and partly parts of storage. Let me keep in mind though, on the entire municipal budget, we have a net reduction in new employees. I can't say that for the whole town, but I can say that for the municipal side of our budget. We have almost 6 less employees in FY25 than we have in FY24. So I appreciate the gentleman's position about, I kind of subscribe to it, about evaluating every new position on a case by case, and we really look forward to that discussion in these hearings. But keep in mind, in order to hire a person, we require that we also remove a position. So we had 6 fewer full-time employees than we had this time last year.
That will come up at a later point.
I am counting and preparing for you, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Will definitely come up at a later.
Laura, did you have a question?
I do. So, thank you, that was a really helpful explanation, but what I'm wondering is, does the town do like risk assessments where we can anticipate that, okay, if we're staffed in a certain way, that we're at, you know, at risk for certain things happening? Because what you described sounds very scary and you know, risky, but, you know, I didn't know about that. And so is there a risk assessment that's done that could be shared at some point, so we have a better understanding of if we don't fund certain positions, these things might happen?
Appreciate that question, Laura. My first month here, a year ago December, I called Myers Risk Assessment Department, our insurance carrier. We get that risk assessment, and they came in, and the issue they raised to us was field supervision when we're doing general construction, where OSHA exempts municipalities from following the same laws I had to follow in the private sector. Mm-hmm. And Stoughton for years developed their own SOPs, their own standard operating procedures. I came here and was outraged because I've been following the private sector SOPs for all these years. So we immediately changed it. Phil and I changed it probably in February. In terms of the risk to our water supply, we knew, it was the month before I came, we knew it happened, and Phil called the FBI. And the FBI had been evaluating and investigating for 6 months when the charges were brought. And they suggested to us, you're going to see it in the article, that we not only have better supervision, field supervision, but to put security systems in every watershed. 11 in every pump station.
14 on the sewer,
14.
about 8 on the water.
So we're following those recommendations are here, to hire stronger field supervision and to put in place better security. So the information did come from those organizations.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
But there's an opportunity to get out ahead of that, or at least put that in the balance of these kinds of discussions?
It's got very tight controls right now.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right,
So we also have a risk assessment specifically for the water.
Right.
okay,
Okay,
all right.
John, do you have any other questions?
I do.
Okay.
And you mentioned security, why are the gates left open to the pumping stations?
The yellow ones?
Yeah,
If there are, there's usually because there's a chain link fence down the road locked.
No. I can walk right down my street, and if that gate's not, I can walk down to those 2,
But you can't get into the stations, it's fenced off.
only if I climb the fence, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can get down it, and with the gate open, you can drive down it.
Or with the gate closed, you can walk around that gate.
I can walk around it, I can't drive through it. But if I drive a car down there, I can do more damage with a car down there than I can just by myself. And it's just something that we paid to put these things in, and I know the one off the plane when you had the thing open so people could get water, and that was the station, if,
Yeah.
you know, that's one thing, although long before that.
So
was-
that one down on King Street should be locked, you know.
I'll keep my eye on it,
Okay, let me know.
because I see it every day.
The only one that's normally open is Plain Street.
Yeah, well, that was the one with the problem with the water at the time. They were told they could actually go down there and get water if they needed, and that's a mess. But anyway, with that, we'll get back into the budget. You indicate, number one, this says DPW superintendent, okay? I assume that's the DPW department head?
Yes.
All right. So I'm looking at the DPW superintendent, and when I look at the end of that line, it says there's a, there we go. That's in as a 9.8% increase. But if you go to the DPW, the department head isn't getting a 9.8% increase, so I'm just, you know, I look and I say, what's going on?
So that one's noted as note one.
Yeah, well, note one says FY '24 payroll calculated incorrectly. This is the correct amount for FY '25. So I assume you're talking, now, because this says it's 0.8, right? This says it's a 0.8, and I know in the DPW it says it's 0.75, which is what it was. Well, it rounds up in some, but not all. So the budget doesn't work the same way every place you see it, which is a minor thing, but if you look at the DPW head, he's at 2.9%. So how has this ended up at 9.8? Are we saying that, well, 24 went in too low, and the adjustment is now made, and that's why it looks like a 9.8% increase?
Yeah, so the footnote reads FY '24 payroll calculated incorrectly. This is the correct amount for FY '25.
Because there are other places that show a fairly large increase, but they say, well, it's only so much. But, there just seems to be some inconsistencies there anyway. But, number 8, foreman. So obviously it shows nothing for last year, and now it's showing that the foreman is in at a half-time, or half FTE with one person, which was not in here before. And the footnote says, this moved from the head pump station operator to foreman. But in FY '24, the head pump station operator was not funded. So if the position changed, and again, this is one of those things where it's showing up here, and it shows up here with these long pages, for the foreman, and it just shows, for the foreman, and it just shows that, that position's there now, but you don't see anything from '24, which in this case wouldn't matter.
I'm sorry.
Because in FY '24, that position, or the other one, the pump station.
Are you on page 56?
I am on page 56, and I'm just going down the line. I'm looking at the line that says foreman, number 8.
So John, I don't know if it's gonna be helpful, but that's why I went to the very bottom and said the FTEs haven't changed, because they juggled around.
But I understand that. When I'm,
do this all night.
But- well, you know what? We're gonna go through this on every budget I've found stuff, because you see, what I do, Phil, is I do go through every
I
single
know,
line.
but bottom line, it's not increased.
You know?
It's 10.4 in both.
You know, there's a lot of things you can do, smoke and mirrors, and throw things around and deflect, and say there's no difference at the bottom, but there are differences here. All right, and it's our job as the finance committee to look at the financials.
Right. and-
So it's a simple question.
Mr. Chairman, and it's my job
Yes,
to change
Mr.
positions
Call.
around as we choose, as laid out by the charter.
Yep,
So the reason the gentleman points out that the FTEs haven't changed is trying to make sense of how people are moved around all year to serve our needs is difficult, but it falls exactly and explicitly in the town charter under my
that's correct.
authority. So that's what we do. And the only way, and for you to suggest is deflection and so forth, I resent that, sir. For us to give you the bottom line as to how many have been added, that gets to the bottom line quickly, that none have been added, 0.4 have been added. But we have and we will throughout the town switch people around where the demand exists. And that's exactly why your charter has the layout it has for your town manager. That's my job.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
It is correct, and it's up to town meeting to approve positions and money.
So,
So the point is, on this.
No, sir, they approved the bottom line. They approved the money, not the positions. That is exclusively the authority of the town manager.
Well, we disagree on that particular point,
Please
because
read the chart.
this has gone.
so note
many
eight,
years.
note eight, you move somebody from head pump station operator to foreman.
And there's a 41% increase,
That's what's
and
happening,
that's the bottom line.
right?
Let me pull out my table, yes.
Okay, I'm just clarifying.
It'd be nice if we had.
So the foreman that Tom was referring to is now fired, I got moved into that slot.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying, there's no smoke and mirrors, it's just guys shuffling around.
Yeah.
filling
So-
positions.
So, but he's got a 41% increase. Is that, I'm just asking you to explain that
Is
increase.
the, is the line increased because you added an extra person, I guess is
That's the
really,
bottom line.
that's the question. The dollar amount increased because you added a half a person.
Because it went from 1 to 1 and 1 last year, it went to 1.5 and 2.
Jamie, do you have some clarification on this?
Every
Thank
single
you,
person I have is on that page.
Okay,
thank you.
so, when you guys are looking at the foreman position.
Yep.
That person was a head pump, he was a pump station operator too. So, he had gone to, which used to be, you'll see where you got, the head pump station operator position, where it's got a 1/8 under department.
Yep,
So he would have gone there, but for some reason that line was zeroed out last year.
Yep.
I'm not sure why, it should have been there. But instead of having that title, we've decided to make him a foreman, that way it's just more consistent.
Okay,
So that's where you're getting the half a person, cause he's half water, half sewer. So he went from pump station operator to, would have been head pump station operator, but we decided to make that a foreman position.
all right, so the increase is based on the fact there's an extra half person in there.
Right.
thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have any other questions on this?
Yeah, Vaughn.
Elliot, you have a question?
I do.
Thank you.
I was unaware of, you said there's something about water almost got contaminated by somebody. Could you fill me in on the gory details?
Yes, sir, it's all been made public. As you recall, I sent the note to all town meeting representatives outlining the situation. We had a gentleman who was subject to punitive action for destroying 2 town trucks. The department head took the truck away from him, subject to a physical indicating that he was safe to drive the truck. He was angry, and he broke into the pump station late at night. He changed the chlorinator, switched the chlorinator, which takes bacteria out of the water, and because of the, what's it called, SCADA system?
The SCADA.
SCADA system, we got an alarm early in the morning. None of it had been discharged to the public, it was still in a day tank. The SCADA system told us that the chlorine was off. Bill responded very early in the morning, and we averted a major problem. A major problem. That's what happened.
Thank you for filling me in.
Thank you for that. You good with that, Elliot?
I like the filling in, yes. I didn't like what happened.
I'm not saying you're good with it, I'm saying you're okay with that response.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just one
Any other,
more.
Mr. Anzavino, you have another question?
On the project engineer, has that position been filled?
Mark is the assistant town manager? Yes.
Well, I just, obviously, it's in there, and I know we went through this last year, as far as with that position. We bumped it up because we didn't have any luck trying to get one, so we bumped it up. And the only reason I asked if it was filled is because it shows 0 spend for this year so far, for FY '24, as of November.
He's been on board for a few months now.
Oh, we should, Tom, if I could you please introduce the new accountant? Because I'm sure people don't know who she is.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth Zaleski. I am the finance director for the town of Stoughton. I am in week 3, day 3, so I'm here to assist and support the town manager and the department heads in their requests. And as I'm listening to some of the comments, I perfectly understand finance committees have a neutral in what we need to do and make sure we're clear to the public. What I do see here, is that several of these line items in the salary have been reduced. So some of that funding was moved up to where it's at the 41% increase. We just moved funding around. So net aggregate increase to salaries is a total of 2.9%, which is within the contractual obligations of what the town's responsible for. So that's just a little bit of clarification from a finance director position, so that if we take the aggregate, no positions have changed, we have the same amount of people. Any questions?
Well, thank you very much for that, and thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add to that, one of the reasons we did a search after Mr. Rowe left for almost 4.5 months, and we had more than 20 candidates. And the reason we chose, by the way, her nickname is Biz, B-I-Z. The reason we chose Biz is she's an instructor with MMA in all the things we do here every day. She was Bill Rowe's instructor, I believe, Mary Jane, she was your instructor. She was the instructor for half of the people that we interviewed. Biz was their instructor within the Mass Municipal Association, municipal finance courses. So we've got a person who understands the law, she has studied our charter and knows finances in and out. I think you'll enjoy working with her. And she'll be very cooperative with the FinCom.
Well, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions?
I mean, the reason I put, when the town meeting rep looks and sees a 41% increase, they're gonna say, what's going on? So, I mean, it's just something that needs to be explained how it got there.
And it's certainly a natural question that somebody would
Can we
ask.
do this once and for all? Give John that breakdown, because it has every answer you keep asking.
So it's the aggregate that town meeting, should be able to look at, be able to understand what this is for the finance committee, the town manager, the select board, as us, all of us working as a team to educate and help town meeting members to understand what we do and why we do it. So in the aggregate, salary-wise, it's only 2.9% increase, and we could go line by line and say, all right, we reduced that and moved here and there, but as Phil said, sorry, I can't remember your last name, as Phil said, we could be here all night going line by line.
Thank you. Phil McNulty.
Thank you, Phil, sorry.
We can help you out with that. Any other questions or comments? Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah, I
on
have
this?
a couple of comments, not questions. So,
Okay.
I thought it was an excellent, the previous speaker on the finance committee bringing up the risk assessment. Like when you make an investment in something, how do we know how much risk you're really gonna mitigate? And I think it's important for everybody to understand that you could spend $1 billion on the entire town to try to mitigate against every single threat there is under the sun, and you probably still wouldn't mitigate every single risk. So it is important to weigh exactly how much mitigation are we getting and how much can we afford. So it is a very important thing to go through. And the other comment I had is that while there might have been, a little bit of, back and forth over the moving of departments and the flexibility that a town manager has versus what town meeting has, from what I understand, and I wasn't around long enough to know, so there might be some people with better background than me, is that there used to be a time in which town meeting had more control than the town manager over how funds were appropriated because there were 2 votes per department. It was the salary line and a separate one for the operating, for the expense side. So if you really wanted to, tie the hands of a town manager, you'd have to go back to that kind of town meeting in which you put 2 votes down for every department. So I don't know exactly the background as to why it shifted to that kind of thing, where we do a bottom line department budget, but I think the town manager is correct. We do a bottom line budget and he has the flexibility based on what we vote. So yeah, we have the control on the bottom line budget, and then he has the control over what to do with the funds once he has them. And I don't think he ever moves money between departments, because that's our job. We do transfers.
Well,
I think
you
that's
can
just the
only
fact.
do that
Yeah.
at a certain point in time. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what I think it's important for people to kind of understand, like how do you get past what you're talking about, which is how do you,
This has been an issue
yeah.
over the years about creating positions and funding them after the budget is approved. And I understand the charter has, that the town manager has the right to, rearrange, restructure, so forth. But it's always been a contention as far as doing it after after something's gone and then doing it in mid-year or whatever. And by the way, you can double check my numbers, but the full-time employees that show here don't add up to what's in the column. So maybe it's because things got rounded, but they didn't add up on my chart. Maybe I missed something. That was all I had, you know. Like I said, the big thing with the project engineer was because there was no spending, at least according to this, through November. So you say they've been on board for a while?
Yeah, at least a few months.
And then maybe at the time in November, you might not have been.
Do we have any other questions or comments on Article 8?
Quick question, Warren.
Yes, Elliot.
You said you're getting a security system for the, what, is that a separate article? And what number is it, you know?
That's not on here.
That's not coming before town meeting, it's coming out of the MWRA, infrastructure fund.
No.
That's already funded.
That's already been funded.
Any other questions, comments, Article 8 from the committee?
Just one on the budget, they show an expenditure through FY '24, $53,000 for equipment repairs and supplies, which is quite, it's 2.5 times what was approved. Can you just explain what happened there? And I'm just assuming the money is coming from within your expense budget, but.
If I may speak to this, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
On this information that's been presented going through November, coming in to this department, we have a lot of, budgets that we have to scrub for accuracy. As Jamie had pointed out, we had a salary that potentially was charged the wrong line.
Mm-hmm.
So all these accounts have to be scrubbed, so we can be patient to allow us to scrub all the budgets and see where the money's going, and make sure that they are all charged appropriately. In the work that we do, everybody's human, and I call it the fat finger effect. When we're keying something in, it's easy to make a mistake. So being short-staffed, I'm trying to get everything up to date and get you more accurate data.
All right, yeah, like I said, it was so high, I didn't know if something happened that, was kind of out of the ordinary or what have you. Because, I mean, they're obviously, because of the increased cost with certain things, they're bumping it up for this year, which I, no problem. It was just the exceedingly high that jumps up. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Article 8, the Sewer Department Enterprise Fund, by Mark.
It's actually not on 8. I would say, are you gonna be redoing this? Are we gonna get another copy of redone before?
This won't get redone until we do our votes and whatever changes we're looking to make, and that would become the budget that gets presented to town meeting.
I think Mark's
So you're saying
referring to
these
that
numbers are wrong,
accuracy.
and they're gonna be scrubbing these numbers.
Well,
What's very unusual is for you to get a, mid-year, year-to-date actual. That's something that we would typically deal with on a quarterly basis once we've scrubbed the quarter and provided documentation to the finance committee. So you're aware of where our monies have been spent. This particular document will not be updated because that means we have to start work all over again. And we're a little busy, to be honest.
No, I just wanted.
But we will
well,
make sure we
it
have.
even goes, because this is what the board voted in at that time. So the only change that would come to this is whatever the finance committee decides they wanna present to town meeting.
I think Mark is asking, are we gonna get an update on the $53,000 amount to see if that's accurate, if the spending really is at that level in November?
Well, just for that one.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
all
you.
the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't.
Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yvonne,
Dave.
I'm Dave Lurie, by the way.
Dave
I
Lurie.
forgot to announce
Yes,
you.
Dave Lurie. Next question's for you.
Yeah, is that, I thought that we had set sort of like the way in which we kind of conduct things, which is to lock down the voted budget like we just did here, the January 16th, but that we would get extra information that kind of summarized any changes over time. That would be supplemental information that we kind of kept, like here's the voted and then here's the update on what needs to be announced to the finance committee. We were gonna get sort of like a separate tracking kind of thing. Oh, by the way, this is moving here, that there was gonna be some kind of a way to track changes over time.
If I might, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
What happened last year was, The budget was voted, and that is locked down, and this is the only budget we will use going throughout our hearings, just like the warrant we got today. By the way, thank you, Mr. Tisdale. That's the one we're gonna use throughout our hearings. We stay with the one document throughout. We already know, I've talked with Mr. Tisdale, that we know there are gonna be some things that still are required to go into the warrant. Some charts and numbers for certain things that we just don't have yet, and we will get those in. But as far as the budget, last year, when there was more money or what have you, we had requests come in to make changes to the budget. And some we did, some we didn't, because the budget that the board votes and presents to us, that's their only budget. That makes the charter, that's what they have. Yes, there is information that we still need.
Our version of the budget that goes in the warrant is gonna have a column saying
It'll have the
Finance Committee's vote, recommendation on a new column.
Yes, it's a separate column.
But that column has to have math applied to it that's not based on the January 16th vote, but on the reality of what we have in real time when we come to vote. We're gonna have a number.
The column,
changes
the
to
column
fit.
that goes in is what we recommend for a budget.
Yeah, but there's cleaned up information that we're gonna be using, and who's documenting all the numbers that have to be.
We haven't voted any changes yet. There's nothing
So we have to keep track ourselves of the dollar numbers have to be a correction on any math mistakes that's already in this budget. So
Right,
we're
and
correcting the math.
that's what Bill used to do as we went to our meetings, if things were found or what have you, he'd track it. And then when we would have an updated, budget for any
To vote
changes
on.
we were looking at to vote on.
So we did last year and the year before.
So then we could safely say that our new accounting director will be helping us with the cleaned up, scrubbed information that we go through as we're going through it, so that we have something with a column that says, here's real numbers the town meeting will have that's not gonna.
What we can do, and I will pass this to the town manager and with my department, is add a column saying finance committee recommendations. Yeah, on this report, it will be in there, so when you make your recommendations, we'll just add it to this schedule as well.
Okay, that'll be clean, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Article 8 from the committee. Any questions or comments from the public? Article 8, Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a point of question
Sure.
for clarification?
Sure, just please identify yourself
Sure.
for the record.
For the record, Mark Zemanian, Precinct 1, and this is in reference to the discussion we were just having. So, on next year's budget, will we see the cleaned up numbers as the actuals, as we see it here from FY '24 to FY '25? In other words, are we gonna be able to compare the new numbers, the proper numbers, or are we gonna be using these numbers
Well,
that we have in front of
If you compared
us?
this to the budget
From last year
that was
in
in the book
March.
last year, what happens is you'll end up with an FY '24 actual, and then you'll end up with, you'll have actuals through a certain period of time for '25.
So the actuals will be what we actually vote on.
You
at
look
town
at-
You
meeting.
will get a town meeting
Yeah.
approved, budget.
If you look on FY '24, the town meeting approved here, there's a column on the budget.
Right.
That will match what was voted last year, and theoretically, this here would move over. Whatever's
Okay.
voted this year will keep moving over to say last year.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is the town staff has recognized this, a few issues, they're gonna clean that up. I just wanna know that that's gonna be reflected for the following budget year, that's all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Please identify yourself for the record. You have a question or comment, Article 8?
Hi, Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. I just have a general question as it relates as we go through the budget in its entirety. The budget is about expenditures and expending all the money. Do we have a revenue what our revenue numbers are and the revenue source, so we can compare what the proposed expenditures are against a revenue? I'm specifically looking concerned. I know the select board voted to reduce the levy in October, so I'm looking to see all these budget numbers against a revenue against that vote. So, through you, Chair, if you could, anybody who could answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Every year, we have a revenue sheet that gets put into the warrant, and that shows where all the money comes from, and then there's a factor that we use, a percentage of that revenue.
I didn't see it here, I'm
Yeah.
just asking,
There's-
It's not
did I
here.
miss it?
It's not in here, no, I'm saying in the warrant book, there'll be one in there. We have a current revenue sheet that the finance committee has requested a breakdown of at this point. So we're waiting on.
That's what I'm asking for, to see the breakdown of it, so that as we go through expending millions of dollars, we know against what revenue.
Yes.
Would we normally have that for, as we begin the finance committee
Yes,
process?
yes, normally we would have that.
No,
We've,
state's not even gonna vote until the.
Right.
we've had that revenue sheet in the past, yes,
Those are the
Mr. Chair?
yes.
To the board, to the
breakdown
president.
of projections.
When we present our budgets, normally we would have a balanced budget showing all the revenues. However, all the revenues that were presented to the Board of Selectmen back in November, we need to scrub those accuracies, make sure we're good. At this point in time, from what I'm seeing, the budgets that are being presented, I will break down as we go along. Where's the revenue coming from for the sewer budget? Where's it coming from the water budget? So we have a clear understanding of where these revenues are coming from. For us to present you with a revenue right now, I'm not gonna be able to give you accurate data. But as we get into the budgets, we keep going, you'll have accurate data, because it has to be scrubbed as well.
Can we get a copy of the breakdown of the revenue sheet? I've emailed about this.
I know you have, and the revenue sheet stands as it was presented to the select board, that Mr. Tisdale sent out to you, I think, several months ago. That stands as it is right now, but, you know, do we have to shift some revenues? Do we have more revenue we can use? Do we have to shift other revenues out? What's our tax rate? What's our overlay surplus? There's certain things that we have to look at. No one has really had the time to look at that. That's part of the job that I have to do right now, is scrub all the revenues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, did you have a question on
I
this?
just was curious, I can respect the fact that you don't have time, and, you know, things have been busy. Do you have any idea as to when we'll get that? Because it's so important, it's so relevant, it's an integral part of what we're doing.
It is an integral part, but right now we're working on the enterprise funds. So those we will have for you tonight. I can let you know what the information is on the enterprise funds.
Okay.
As we get into the larger budget, the aggregate budget, we will be able to give you a clearer picture on the revenues and where they come from.
Thank you.
And I'd
Thank
like
you,
to
Ms.
have it all at
Biz.
the same time, so we will work on that.
Thank you.
Get you as quickly as we can.
Mr. Chairman, just to add to that, one of the reasons the revenues are moving around so much, I'll give you one example. With the migrant population that's moved into the town of Stoughton, we no longer have 2 hotels. They're shelters. Therefore, we lose the room tax.
That's what
And
I
I'm
was.
communicating every day with the governor's office to come up with a revenue for this. But the impact of that lost revenue is over $500,000. And so there's a bunch of things that are changing the revenue stream. There's 2 other examples. As you know, we did rate increases on water and sewer and on rubbish, solid waste. We have 2 quarters, 6 months worth of data to show whether the revenues that we're raising are matching the expenses of the budget. We don't even have a full year, we only have 2 months, 2 quarters. So as we continue to track that, and we do have some preliminary information that shows that the water and sewer increase is matching our budget expenses, which is a great relief. It was good forecasting. Solid waste, it looks like it's tracking there as well. V&A is still in trouble. Town meeting spoke very openly that they want V&A regardless of the structural deficit. It's looking like that's gonna have another structural deficit, and we'd like to have a conversation with FinCom as to whether that should even be an enterprise fund or a general service fund. So that's changing all the time, and we're just tracking all that information before we can nail down the total revenues. And please appreciate that Mr. Rowe used to just tell us what it is, and we went with it. And with Bill Blunt now for almost 6 months, we've all had to become accountants until Biz started 3.5 weeks ago to figure out how all those things were done. So thank you for that opportunity.
You're welcome. Dave, did you have a
Go ahead.
question?
Yeah, thank you, Vaughn, through you. I wanted to know, I heard the presentation during your comments at the last select board meeting in which the switch from hotels to shelters took away our revenue source. But wasn't there also gonna be a loss, at least of one of the hotels that also has alcohol served and food?
That's
And
correct.
is that rolled up into the same $500,000 that you quoted during that meeting?
No, that's just room tax, Dave. Alcohol is not a very big number compared to room tax, but no, it does not include alcohol. And the other thing is Sinai. Sinai is the largest taxpayer and employer in the town of Stoughton. That's closing. So we didn't know that when we were doing the budget hearings. So as we move forward in the budget, we'll be coming to you with more relevant and more current data, so jointly we can make some decisions on how we're gonna do things.
I need a follow-up.
Dave, do you have a follow-up on
I
that?
have a follow-up on that. I wanna see the revenue sheet without this money that, the shift from hotel to shelter. I want the revenue sheet that shows what the state is denying us for revenue. That's our job to look at it. I think it's important for the citizens in the town to see it. It's not real when it's just kind of uttered as sort of like a loose, like random number. But when it's on a revenue sheet, this is the amount of money that we would have anticipated at 95% of last year, whatever formula you use, to see it on a revenue sheet. So I don't wanna see any excuses like, especially like that, for not having a revenue sheet. A breakdown of the revenue sheet, even if it's painful, that painful information is important for us to have. It's important for us to have.
If being accurate is an excuse, then that's our excuse.
But in a snapshot in time, it is accurate to say that we don't have this money from those sources. So as a snapshot in time, if that gets remedied by the time we get to town meeting, then great, we'll have a celebration and it'll be a wonderful day. But in the meantime, we need to see the raw facts. We need the facts, because even when the facts are unfriendly, we need to see them. Okay, that's what I want. Not all, apparently not all the time.
Okay, thank you for that, Dave. John, did you have a comment on this?
Yeah, and I, and I'm gonna turn my back so I can talk to the people that I'm addressing, but I'll speak loud enough for the rest of you to hear, believe me. I think the point is, in the past, when the budget is done, there's always been a revenue sheet for the budget team to work on. And this revenue sheet, for the 9 years I've been on this committee, and the 6 years I spent on another board, we always had a revenue sheet, which always changed in time. And the point being, for you to do a budget, you had to have revenues in mind that you were spending. So I think that it's a fair question. If, to be frank, in the past, I would have pushed not to even have hearings until we had the revenue. Because how are we supposed to even look at budgets and have any idea if they're worthwhile or reasonable, I should say. So we would like to see what was the revenue that you used to produce this budget? That's all. And if it changes, Mr. Calder, it changes. That's fine. And we understand that.
I understand.
I prefer this one a
As
lot more.
perhaps you
because it
recall,
tells us everything.
we had a public forum, joint committee of the selectmen and the school committee. And CLA, a highly regarded accounting firm, came in and did a presentation on revenues. You've all got copies of that presentation. They were all sent out to every town meeting member after the presentation. John, I believe you may have been there for that.
No, I wasn't, but I watched it.
Okay, so that is the information.
December 12th, I think, was the day, if I remember correctly.
I wouldn't challenge that. That is the information we had at that time. Then we learned about the room tax, so we're adjusting that. This has been here 3.5 weeks. In the past, all 17 years you just referenced, we had a guy named Bill Rowe. He just gave us numbers. Nobody had any clue for 17 years how he derived those numbers.
He used a percentage of the previous year.
That's easy on local revenues.
Yeah.
That doesn't take into consideration assessments, revenues from enterprise funds. There's so many other sources, room tax, meal tax, ambulance services, and the like. So all biz, when we hired her, we're not trying to delay anything, folks. And when we have it, you're gonna have it. I view you as partners. I don't view you as the enemy. When we have it, you have it, but it's an incredibly difficult process this year. We thought until yesterday Until yesterday, we had a $2.3 million deficit in the MWRA fund. I said, how's that possible? Mr. Rowe told us it was a $2.3 million surplus. We probably spent 6 hours
We spent quite a bit.
on the phone with Mr. Rowe, trying to figure out his spreadsheet records where the formula was 2 feet long, as to how he came up with that number, because the general ledger account wasn't totaled. None of them are. So we're backing into it right now. If you want real-time information as we can nail down the number, happy to give that to you, absolutely. Again, you're a partner on this thing. But in terms of the final revenue, if something changes tomorrow that was unforeseen, like what the impact of Sinai is gonna be, what the impact of the room tax, or is the governor gonna cave to our Stoughton's request that they keep us whole? As it changes, we'll give it to you. There's no secrets here. We'll work together on it.
If I may, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Lord's question, I have started tracking, I did it when I first got here, on the hotel, motel, and meals tax, what we collected last year, what we've collected so far this year, and our next funding is due at the end of February through the state revenues that we receive. So once I have that, I can tell you what I'm seeing on trending. And once I have that trending, then we can say, we really need to adjust this down by 10%, 20%, find another revenue source if we can to make up for that. Where there are other ideas of working on, but I do have a spreadsheet I've been working on, and it takes 23 and 24 into account. So we are tracking this, and I wanna make sure that what we do give, if we have to cut our local receipts by X amount of dollars, we have to cut it. And if we have to cut it, is there another source that we can increase to make up that difference?
Just the last thing, Juan.
Yep.
It's just, you can present that information any way you want. Yeah, we had the old way that Bill Rowe did it, but that doesn't mean you don't have the luxury of being able to change the format to say, here's what we have is the truth, and then, by the way, we expect these changes to happen over time, and we will be, you can caveat the information. You don't have to
No,
be
right now,
locked in a
the-
cement with the numbers.
and you can't be with revenues. It doesn't work
No,
that way,
well,
there are broad differences.
Okay, can I ask a crazy simple question here? Can we get the list of the actuals for 2023 for the local things, like motor vehicle excise tax, room occupancy tax, meals tax, all that stuff, the actuals?
It's on the recap, so I'd be more than happy to print page.
Could you email it over?
I would love to.
Great, thank you very much. And that'd be kind of a step towards getting something.
And what I'll do is I will get the CLA presentation, we'll send that out to you, because CLA did the original revenue projections. Since then, we had a very limited estimate on the state aid that we'd be receiving. State aid has gone up based on the governor's budget, and as we know, state aid, we have another 3, 4, 5 months where they're gonna chronically be changing our cherry sheet revenues. So that is not etched in stone, that varies either way.
We all have we all have the CLA, we wanted to break down, the
Yes,
breakdown
that's
is
what I'm
really
asking
the
for the
difference
actuals.
between what we have and what we don't,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, the CLA is what we're working with right now, but I will definitely get you the recap information.
All right, thank you.
That shows our actual.
Thank you very much. Mark, did you have a follow-up on this?
Yes, town manager, I believe. So on the 2 hotels, you're saying guesstimating around 500,000 loss?
If we look at, Mark, if we look at what we collected in 23,
Yeah.
it looks like about $500,000 gain.
Right.
So as we look at 25, where there'll be no hotel if we're still a shelter.
Right.
Best guess is we'll lose another $500,000
And
in
then,
revenue.
do you have a guesstimate on the loss of tax revenue for the cyanide?
We can give you the current, and now the real estate tax will remain the same.
Right.
That's the good loss. The personal property tax may remain the same, if they don't empty the place out.
And who knows who's gonna pay the real estate tax?
Yeah,
Exactly.
If they're not paying their rent now.
right, they're not gonna do that.
You know, I mean,
Okay, any other questions, comments from the, Cynthia, do you have a question or comment? Article 8? Sorry. Or the budget?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street, Precinct 3. I've been involved in local government for 48 years, and I know it's incredibly frustrating for people, but we're gonna go completely through town meeting, and we won't have a passed state budget. And that's where a big chunk of our money comes from. So asking people to put on paper all of these facts and figures, I don't think, the cherry sheet in March, or is it already out?
We received the governor's estimate, and with the, oh, I'm sorry. We received the governor's estimate, and we received House 1. The variable between the governor's estimate and House 1 is approximately $2 million. So once we get to the next round of the government that approves, it could either go up or it could go down. So that's why we need to be more accurate on our projections for the final cherry sheet revenue. So that's very important. Cherry sheet's going to fluctuate. I'm examining all of our revenues to date, halfway through the fiscal year. What have we received in? Are we on target so that going into fiscal 25, our estimate for local receipts, motor vehicle, etc., is accurate and on target. So there's a little bit of analytics that I have to do to ensure that what I'm going to give you is going to be on target.
So my point, Mr. Chairman, is that there won't be, all of these numbers won't be definite till sometime in October. That's when the state budget will probably be passed, because I have to do some cuts, because revenues aren't what they should be in the state level either. So that I don't have a problem with the members asking for, what were the numbers you started with to create what you've created, but asking people to come up with a crystal ball is very unfair. And it's, in the 48 years I've been involved, we've never, ever had a town meeting where we had all the facts and figures at the beginning or at the end. We're doing our best faith effort based on what we know, sitting in those seats on that particular night. So I know this could go on all night long and how unfair some of this is, but it's real life, it's the real world, and we're going to have to accept it.
Thank you very much for that. Any other questions or comments from the public? Article 8. Yes, please identify yourself for the record.
Chair. Again, Mark Zemanian, Precinct 1, and if you'll allow it through you, Mr. Chair, to the town manager, seeing as how we're way off the reservation of Article 8, I just ask you, Mr. Town Manager, you've spoken tonight in some terms about the migrant situation. Is this something that is not relevant at all to Phil's article tonight, but can this be brought up in a public forum to through the select board to better inform the public, because there's a lot of information out there right now and a great deal of it's inaccurate. So anything you could do with the select board would be extremely helpful for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your flexibility there.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from the public? Article 8, Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget. Hearing none.
Yeah, please make note, it's not just the article, because the
Yes.
article has nothing in it. It's
Yeah,
the budget
it's
that
the
we're
budget.
looking at.
The Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments from the committee or the public on the Article 8 Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget? Hearing none, we'll go to Article 24. And let's just try to keep in mind, we're gonna keep our questions and comments relevant to the article.
Page 21 of the warrant.
Article 24.
You're on number 6.
Page 59, 59 in the budget. Well, it's page 59 in the budget, did you say that?
It's page
Article
21.
Article 24,
Article
sewer
24.
capital, inflow and infiltration, $400,000.
Oh, I know, oh, right,
Yeah, because we're still in the sewer department, so we figured we'd cover their capital now, and then we'll jump down to water.
That's back on 56.
No,
Article 21 on page, Article 24 on page 21 of the warrant. It's an article, in the warrant.
Article 24, sewer capital, inflow and infiltration for $400,000.
Don't take your time. So, while it's I&I, capital article. It's an article that you, as you know, most of you, unless you're new, you've seen every year. It's to investigate, design, construct leaks and infiltration through these sump pumps, leaky pipes, cracks in pipes, and so forth. And by doing so, we maintain the capacity of the pipes and reduce clean water mixing with dirty water and reaching the MWA meter when it leaves town, and that's what we pay for. Relative to the sewer operating budget, there's a line called the MWA assessment. It's just shy of $6 million, so it's a substantial line of the sewer operating budget. So by doing so, we were able to maintain and keep that number under control. Without doing it, that number's gonna run away from us.
Okay.
It's, once again, when we borrow $400,000, 75% of that is grant from the MWRA, and so it's essentially like borrowing $100,000 to get $400,000 worth.
All right.
I'm not sure of the interest rate on that.
The interest rate, if it's SRF funding?
Yes.
SRF funding, I think right now is paying 2.5%.
So it's low interest and 75% grant, so it's a good article and it helps us keep our water operating budget under control.
All right.
I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you for that. Joel, you have a question?
Joel Wall, Finance Committee. Phil, we do this every year. Do you use a private company for this?
We consult out the design and we bid out the construction work.
Oh, so you don't have like a company that you give like a 3-year contract to, or?
We do a lot, we get a list from our consultant, and we have a jet truck and a TV truck, and we do a lot of the investigation work ourselves in-house to try to save money on that.
Okay, so the labor would be in your labor budget,
Yes,
okay? But the other stuff is,
the construction and the design and the construction oversight is,
okay, so, but you bid it out every year, or?
the consultant's the same.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years, same consultant.
So,
But any construction, which is usually around $1 million a year, is
Yeah.
bid out.
okay, all right, thanks.
John, you have a question on this?
Just one, do you know how much is in the account now, Phil? Because I know we don't use it all the time, so.
Right.
Is there a balance in the account?
Last I saw it was 1.3 million, so,
Balance in the capital account for the.
Yeah,
yes.
I do not have it off the top of my
I
head.
mean, if that's,
It's a little bit.
I mean, if that's an approximation, that's fine. I'm just curious, because we go through it every year, that,
Yeah,
you know, sometimes it's not all used, so, and once you have it, you have it.
You
So
not
it keeps
put-
going, but, so, about a million plus, so.
1.3 is the last number I saw, that was May of '23. Something I've talked to, what's your formal title? Finance manager?
Finance director.
Oh my God.
Biz. Last I talked to Biz, this is something I brought up with Bill Rowe from time to time, is it's such a repetitive article, could we just put it in the operating?
yeah, we've talked about this before, actually.
And he wasn't a fan of it, I don't know who Biz is. I don't understand why we couldn't still get the same grant reimbursements if it was in the operating budget versus.
If you have to borrow the money, I don't think we put that in the budget.
Yeah, maybe a reason, I don't know.
One of the things that we're addressing on the I&I is because it is a repetitive budgetary issue, that as we go forward, not for 25, but as we go out in future budgets, we would like to get this into the budget.
Okay.
Now, you have been borrowing $400,000 a year for a number of years. You're borrowing this money for what, 10, 20 years? For $400,000. I'm gonna recommend that you no longer do that. We find another funding source, and for this particular article, I believe you all received the retained earnings free cash certifications that came from the state. So right now, my recommendation on this article is that we take $400,000 from retained earnings. Do not borrow, because when you borrow, it increases your budget costs. Take that from retained earnings, we take out $400,000, That's still gonna leave us $505,000 to close out this fiscal year, which is what we're gonna need. That's the recommendation on this article.
But do we still get the reimbursement?
Yes, you do.
We get 3/4 of reimbursed.
There's still a grant out there, and, I believe last year, one of the figures I saw, $795,000 for the cost. We have to do a sort of a match grant type of situation, so this will keep us running, this will keep the I-9 going, and then move it into the budget as we go forward.
So we should make note that that motion has a good chance of changing. Is that what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Eric, you have a question?
Two quick ones, probably related. Eric Anderson.
Hi.
Just looking at your slides then, and that one of the aims is to reduce our flow share to MWRA. I'm just curious, is it working? Like, what's the trend as far as you know?
So actually, this year, we just last week got the preliminary assessment, actually went down from last year. So that's highly unusual because the MWRA's operating budget goes up around 3, 4, 5, 6%, that area. So
Great.
we're fighting against that, so that means we're doing better.
Great. In the next,
Sorry.
No, you're good.
You know, if you make repairs, it doesn't show up the next year because you take it 3-year increments, so it's kind of a gradual thing.
Yeah.
But, it's trending in the right direction.
That's a good sign. And then, and I feel like you've explained this before, so I apologize. So like in this slide where you say like zero-sum game, where versus all the other communities, can you remind me just what you mean by that?
Yeah, so a lot of people think we pay, there's a meter at the edge of town. Actually, if you know where Heron Drive is, it's at the very end, it goes into Canton. That's where our meters are. And whatever goes in our pipes, whether it's clean water or, gray water or dirty water, it's metered there. So this is to keep the clean water out, and we don't get charged per gallon, like you might commit, like at your house, you might think you gotta get charged per gallon.
Talked about this
100,000
before.
gallons, whatever. You get paid, they do measure the gallons, but it's a flow share. So if you consider the whole greater Boston as 100%, our flow share is right around 1%. It could be 0.98, it could be 1.01. A place like Quincy or Cambridge or Boston is gonna be 8%, 12%, so forth. So the MWRA is gonna they're gonna collect from all the towns, contributing towns and cities. If they need let's say they need 400 million, they're gonna get that 400 million, but we're gonna pay out 1% of it.
Got it.
The only thing there's a number of variables that go into it, like population, sewer population, strength of the sewer, meaning how, what's in it, contaminated, it's, industry and so forth. We don't have much control over those. Those are fixed variables. The only variable we can control is the flow. So this is the article that addresses that.
Thank you.
Okay, you have any other questions?
No, that.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee? Article 24, sewer capital inflow and infiltration. I have a question. Could we get Vonanokian, could we get a map that shows where we've already done that infiltration? I've seen them do it. They pull that liner through inside out, and it's pretty interesting.
So we have that map, and definitely.
You
I can tell you in general, we've done it's called a in place lining.
Yep.
Conscious technology, loading from one manhole to the other, so you don't have to dig up the street. But we tracked that, we plotted on the maps. It's, like I said, but we've done about 25% of the town pipes.
Could we get an email map of that?
Themselves, yeah.
Okay, that'd be great, because I think that's something that would be good for town meeting, because I know a lot of town meeting members want to see what's happening. So if you show them a map that shows what streets, you can color them pink or orange or whatever, where we've done this.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah, could you email that over? That'd be great. Thank you very much.
We'll get that.
That would be great in the book.
Even though it's not in color. It'll be in color on the digital version.
So any other questions, comments from the committee? Article 24, sewer capital inflow and infiltration. Any questions or comments from the public? Article 24, sewer capital inflow and infiltration. Hearing none, we'll go to the next.
I guess my.
Oh, Mr. Gito, how are you tonight?
Lou Gito, precinct 4, 1261 West Street. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. You know, all the points that were raised are very important on this. The other factor is that when you have a rainstorm, you can get a lot of water here, a little water someplace else. So that's another component in terms of that 100% and where it comes from. So it's really important that we deal with making sure that our pipes are as tight as they can be, because we're seeing that variability more and more in recent years. So I just would like to add that to your thought process.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Mr. Chairman, can I address that? That's actually it's an excellent point, is the peak. Because that's what the MWA Deer Island, that's what they care about, because when they get inundated with flow, they care about the peak, not the high flows, but the peak flows.
Yeah.
Those come from some pumps after the rainstorms and roofs that are connected to the sewer. So the peak is one of those variables that I left out. Thanks for that.
Well, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the public? Article 24, sewer capital inflow and infiltration. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda for town budget, water department, we have Article 9, water department enterprise fund budget. Bill.
The article is on page 5 in the warrant, but the budget is page 59, which is where you're gonna have all the information.
Once again, in collaboration with the town manager and the assistant town manager, we analyzed every line, looked for opportunities to be efficient, improve services to the town and Stoughton residents. Once again, we have footnoted the budget to highlight areas where there's significant change in very similar to the sewer. In summary, the FTEs for the salary portion has gone up 0.4 FTEs, largely based on the new employee that we talked about earlier. And the budget has increased 7.9%. And about 5% of that is due to the new employee. And the expenses have increased 2.3%. And if we were to plug in the preliminary assessment from the MWRA, that would be down to 1.3%. As I stated earlier, we're carrying a more conservative number.
In the footnotes at the end here, is this a situation where like foreman from 1 to 1.5 FTE, the heavy equipment mechanic from 1 to 2.5 FTE, motor equipment operator from 2 to 1 FTE, and pumping station operator from 1.5 to 1 FTE, and program admin from 1.3 to 1 FTE? Is this all situations similar to before, where we're moving them around?
Jamie actually has a breakdown of those are all broken down in a separate spreadsheet, which we're going to.
Okay, so we can get that in the email then?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that.
You show
Do you have any questions or comments from the committee on this? Mark?
Yeah, mine is on the, weekend beepers. Might want to change to weekend phones, but yeah.
I feel like that came up last year.
2023, you spent 26,000.
Can you just make a point of where you are on, you know, what
Oh,
page?
page 59, sure.
And you're down in the, expenses.
Yeah, on the weekend beepers
Okay.
/ phone. 2023, you spent 26,000. Actual so far this year, 12,000. But you were, well, I mean, the actuals this year is 6,000, but you're asking for 30,000.
Yes.
It's like double the amount.
Yeah, it's a 50% increase, yes.
Why so much?
It's 100%.
spent 6,000 this year.
I thought it was a budget from 20 to 30.
Oh, 20 to 30 is.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was reading the 15.
You were
The
approved for
actual.
20, but you actually only spent 6.
Yeah.
So,
So
so
that's,
why are you gonna ask for 30?
that's by design. The water and sewer station, the way we work, the water and sewer stations have an on-call phone from Thursday to Thursday. Any weekend night, 24 hours a day, 8 person carries that phone and responds to any alarm calls from the stations. On the distribution side, the foreman on that side, or any employee, has not been compensated for that, so. And that's kind of an oversight over the years, it really should be, because he responds in the same way that the sewer station employee responds to alarms, or phone calls from the police, there's a water break Saturday night, whatever. So, it's something that I noticed, that we needed to be corrected, so I put it in there.
I don't think I understand.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they're on call with a phone, you want them to be paid while they're on call? Even if they're out the beach with a beeper, they're responding to the call while they're lounging?
So this is one of the recommendations, through you, Ron, I'm sorry. This is one of the recommendations, recommended by Maya, and then supported again by the FBI's recommendation to us. We've had one person on call, he can't go to the beach, he can't go out to a wedding and party, he can't be at a restaurant. It's been one person for more than a decade. And that person, if you speak to him, they'll tell you, I quit, I can't do it anymore, I'm burnt out. And I see why, I was in the emergency response business for 40 years. You can't have the same person on. At the same time, the union came to us and said, if you're gonna have people on call and control what they do with their nights and their Saturdays, their Sundays, you gotta pay them. You gotta give them a stipend. And so that's why the stipend is in there for next year, or the additional pay is in for next year. A, it was a recommendation based upon risk assessment, and B, it was a collective bargaining agreement that was demanded by the water and sewer department. If you're gonna control our time, you have to pay us something to be on call. We're not paying every hour that we're in. I think it's a stipend.
It gets paid, per the collective bargaining agreement, it gets paid for Saturday straight time and Sunday straight time.
When they're called up, is that correct?
No, just.
When they're on call.
When they're on call.
So this is through the CBA for that.
That's part of their contract. That was gonna be my question.
And the town just never did it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
For free for 20 years.
Okay.
Spirit, who's gonna give up the day?
But they're not at the beach, that's the
Okay.
point.
So, thank you very much for that. Do we have any other, questions or comments on this? Joel, do you have a question?
Phil, your union agreements, when do they expire?
Is it 25 to 28?
No, the DPW, you're part of the DPW, CBA,
Yes.
they come up at the end of next year.
The end of next fiscal year?
That's correct.
Next fiscal year.
Okay.
They're the only one that's not under a long-term contract.
That's why I was asking the question, okay. And the other question I had, Phil, and this is for both sewer and water, do you have any people that are on workers' comp right now?
No.
Pleased to say that part of that risk assessment on health and safety, we have no workers' comp claims right now.
Oh,
None.
okay.
First time in decades. And the costs have gone down.
Yeah, I've asked a couple times, yeah.
It's been a while, we haven't, I don't know how long, it's been 10 years.
Good, excellent. Thank you.
Does that include DPW?
I was just speaking of the water, so I'm
Well,
not sure.
That does have some people.
Because I think a couple years ago, Ted, you and I talked to the DPW people, and they had at least 2 or maybe 3 people that had workers' comp.
Mostly from sanitation.
Yes, right.
We have any other questions from the committee on Article 9, Water Department Enterprise Fund Budget, this town budget here? Mark, you have another question?
Yes.
Mark Struck.
Mark Struck.
Yes.
Precinct, formerly of 7. The vehicle maintenance and operator, you only spent $810 last year.
Oh, this year,
For
this fiscal year,
2024, yeah.
yeah.
And for equipment repairs and repairs, it's only at 4,000, which has to go into one of the other articles that we're gonna be talking about with the trucks to be replaced. Doesn't seem like much was spent on vehicle maintenance.
That's the November actuals that they're looking at. And again, we're scrubbing all the accounts and what happened up through November. Something could have been charged in a different account number. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to the actuals through November because there's a lot of work that has to go into this to scrub these. He may have only spent $810 here, but in December he could have spent $15,000. So that's, the timing when we do the invoices, when we pay our bills, when we pull our purchase orders, that has to be taken into account as well. So the actuals today for 24, the most important things you want to look at is not what's going on today, but what went on last year. What did we spend last year? That's what your actuals should be showing, not a partial year to date. As we get closer, like I said, we'll provide quarterly reports once I have all the books scrubbed and I make sure all the warrants are posted, all the rolls are posted. We will give you a report from the Munis system showing you this is what was spent in September, this is what was spent in December. Okay, so we will work this so we're on the same page. Any questions at that time, we can answer to the best of our abilities, but we have 200-300 invoices a week. So for us to speak to an individual account on an invoice, it would be kind of difficult. This way we'll at least give you some general data.
All right, yeah, just because looking at this, it doesn't seem like
Exactly.
any maintenance is done
Right.
on the vehicles, but we want to replace the vehicles.
But we could have done, like I said, we could have vehicles out for processing, et cetera. So there's definitely a timing issue, and this is not giving you a true picture.
I didn't know if you had a question.
Oh, no.
I can tell you get 3 more.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on this, Article 9, the Water Department Enterprise Fund budget?
Just to address that comment, I do look at what was approved in 24, and I look back at what was actually spent in 23.
Yes.
Because, and I know a question went in, there's a lot of things that just seem to be carried over from year to year to year. And when you do look at the history, sometimes you wonder. I know we're talking small money on a lot of these, but when you have 1,000 items that are small, they become big.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
I agree.
But just to that point, I do look at what was approved in 23, what was actually spent in 23, and then you look at what was approved in 24. For the most part, they're keeping them the same. And the ones that I'm concerned with, the ones that either got the actuals for 23 were way over what was approved, or the actuals for 23 were way under what was approved.
Well, part of the process
So-
that happens here as well is what's called encumbrances. So when we have money from fiscal 23 that we have ordered a service and or a contract, we hold that money from 23 and we're paying that 23 money in 24.
Understood.
So that's where you will see some strange variables, but if you know what your encumbrances are, what your outstanding purchase orders are, you know we voted this for 24, we spent this in 23, however, X amount of dollars carried forward on the encumbrance. So that creates your variables, and when you have transfers, we come to the finance committee for transfers. I'm not sure how often you do that, but if
Not
not,
often.
okay. I don't like doing transfers either if I don't have to. If an department goes to you for a transfer, well, you had to increase their budget for a specific reason. So that increase to the budget needs to be included in the process.
Even from the transfer?
Yes, because you increased the budget.
Okay. I'm
CCO.
just trying to get it in my head, that's all.
So you're
It's
increasing.
an old
the
head,
budget.
it takes a while to sink in.
It's going for you to sink in too. So those are some of the variables that, aren't in a regular course of event that you would normally see.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I'd
Mr.
like to
Culp.
point out to the committee members, if you look at the bottom line and look right above it, it's net expense, and you'll see a substantial increase, if I recall, it's $450,000 in 1 year. That is because of the policy we've had of borrowing of all of these expenditures. Business convinced me, and she's much smarter than I am, that if we can continue to build our retained earnings, we can stop the volume of borrowing we do in these enterprise funds. So that increased our bottom line budget by $450,000, bottom line expenses by $450,000. If we can build the retained earnings based upon a fair rate structure that covers our costs, we should be able to build retained earnings so we can incorporate I&I, for instance, and the other one into our operating budget. And so that we can buy some of the smaller equipment, whether it's pickup trucks or whether it's the water blaster, into the operating budget, not borrow for it. So that's the objective. So the increase in water and sewer, it looks like it's tracking. Yet, for 2 quarters, we've collected a little over $1 million. Is that correct? 1.2. Yeah. $1.2 million more than the year before. That should leave us with retained earnings, and we can start paying for some of the capital accounts, capital expenditures from our public retained earnings. And that was a big hit to cover that $470,000, $460,000, if I recall.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments from the committee? Article 9, Water Department Enterprise Fund Budget, one of the town budgets here. Questions or comments from the public? Article 9, Water Department Enterprise Fund Budget. Hearing none. Next item, Article 25, the Water and Sewer Department Capital. You want to cover this, Phil? There are 3 items on here. Page 22 in the warrant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the FinCom, presenting a capital article for, I guess I cover the jet truck. So the jet truck is 1996, so it's approaching 30 years old. It's been out for repairs quite a bit, and it's just time to replace it. So this article, the new jet truck is it's a service truck to address, residents calling for clogs and either in Maine or going up into the service if we can address that. So it's a jet truck that frees clogs, and it also, like I mentioned earlier on the I&I program, it cleans the pipe before we close circuit TV it so that we get a good look at the pipe. We use it quite a bit, we use it every day, pretty much. And it's just time to replace it.
Are you going to auction off, or are you going to keep it as a spare?
I think we'll keep it as a spare.
Yeah.
Tom just said, just keep it indoors so it doesn't go rust.
It doesn't work now, though, does it?
Yeah, it's kind of shaky though. The pump is, we've had to repair the water pump a couple of times.
I'm just saying, if one truck is old, the other day.
Only if it was a pickup truck, I'd say it's really old, but that would be good if you can hang on to us.
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee on this new jet truck, Article 25? John, you have a question?
Yeah, John Walsh, Precinct 3. Just, if we order it today, hypothetically, what's the delivery date? We talking a year or 2?
I think 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
All right.
So you're looking at winter time, maybe, at best?
Yeah. So
Because it wouldn't be approved till May.
yeah, the one we use it, we're open.
And you said this is 96, the one that,
Yeah.
thank you.
Joel, you have a question?
Is this being purchased off the state bid list?
We're gonna look at the state bid list, but we're gonna look to.
What?
Meaning, they don't always have the lowest prices.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, yeah. That's why I asked the question.
Sometimes the item's there, sometimes it's not, so, if
Okay.
it's there, we'll.
Is it on the state bid
I
list?
don't know. We got quotes from,
That's the first thing I check whenever I look at these
suppliers,
things, yeah, okay.
And they were both around 350,000, so we're comfortable with the number.
All right, so the truck comes fully operational with everything on it and tested out and a warranty and all
Yeah.
the wax?
800 feet of hose, yeah,
No matter who you get it from?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Fit it out.
We like to avoid that state list as much as possible.
Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't.
Mr. Chairman, I know it's just a bit out of topic, but if I may, about the state bid list, because that question is gonna come up on other capital items.
Sure.
We now have a purchasing department, one of the few municipalities that does have a purchasing department. In the first 10 days, the purchasing department canceled orders that were purchased through the state bid list and bought them privately and saved $72,000. And the inventory was in stock as opposed to waiting 6 months from now. They're already registered down the road, these pickup trucks. The state purchasing list are for small communities that don't have a procurement department, because procurement is so complex. And if you do it wrong, you're in a lot of trouble. We have an extraordinary procurement person in Fran. We've never been in trouble for doing anything wrong. We're one of the few communities that are not in trouble for doing it wrong. Those smaller communities can go right to the state bid list, but they pay a premium. I'm gonna give you one example and then I'll be quiet. The lift truck that we just had rehabbed. We've been using the same people off the state list for 20 years. We won't give you their name in case you're related to them. They gave us a price to retrofit a old recycling truck and put a lift on it. The price was $101,000. Paul Jaffoon worked with our purchasing department. They went out and put it out for private bid. The other two bidders were within $400 of each other at $49,200.
Well, that's what I would expect.
And then the guy came in.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not hiring me?
Yeah.
I'm on the state list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We're not paying $60,000 for that. So that issue's gonna come up in other capital projects. I thought there was an opportunity to explain why.
Well, the reason I asked is that I know we're still talking about the first thing. Which
The
is
jet truck.
right, but the 2F.
Well, we're on the jet
250
truck now.
I know, but those had the state contract on it, which is why I asked the question.
Any other questions from the committee on the new jet truck, part of Article 25, Water and Sewer Department Capital?
I have a question.
Dave, I'm sure you have a question.
Yeah,
Dave
I'm
Laurie.
not, Dave Lurie. I'm not sure if, it can be answered necessarily tonight, but, when you're borrowing in an enterprise account and you have that debt service, does that get measured as, as all the rest of the debt for the town when we're looking at the bond market and bond council? Do they look at that and say it's part and parcel of the rest of our debt? When they're judging how much against our general fund are we borrowing, or does it stand alone and outside and completely isolated from the rest of the borrowing?
What happens when you're borrowing for an enterprise fund, general fund, any type of borrowing, you will have your debt itself, we will get the same interest rate, it's called a general borrowing, but the enterprise fund itself is responsible for its principal and interest. And right now, we have a borrowing we're trying to finalize for things that were voted in the fall, and we have an estimate interest rate right now, and it's due to change, at 5.5%. And that's just an estimate. It could change tomorrow. It could be 3%, it could be 10%. So we're working strictly with bond counsel. When you borrow in municipality, it's different from personal borrowing. So we have bond counsel, and we also have a financial advisor who assists us to get the best rates that we can get to make sure our interest rate is low, and we're doing the best we can in keeping our premiums high. People buy our notes, they pay us a premium, we can use that to offset the cost of the projects.
Okay.
Did that answer the
And
question?
it does get rolled into the debt cap.
That's what I meant. We have a
Part of our debt cap.
10% cap. Does this add to the percentage, within the 10%? We have to add this debt.
No, because the enterprise fund is separate. So
It's
we,
not separate, because part of the debt, the total debt cap, it's not borrowing.
Borrowing capacity is measured at up to 10%, and then we kind of get in trouble with the bond markets if we go over.
and that's kind of what we're looking at.
And this is within that 10%, this rolls to that measurement.
Yes, we have to look at what we have outstanding debt right now and how we're faring on that, and we had discussed earlier. We're borrowing a lot of money, so a little bit more analysis, working with the financial advisor, et cetera, we'll have more.
Do we have, through Yvonne, a snapshot of our retained earnings for each of those enterprise accounts?
Yes, I believe you all got that information.
We got that already.
Yes,
free
I
cash
can-
certification.
That's CPA thing?
We got
It's in the free cash thing.
Oh, the free cash document, find it there,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a little more complicated than I'm used to seeing, it's very, very
Well, we had,
complicated.
there was a front
Yeah.
sheet that just gave the individual accounts and how much they were.
Yeah, yeah.
It was much easier than going through all the other sheets, because
Right,
you gotta
right.
do some work on it.
Right, right.
I can give you a rundown right now, if you'd like, because I have the figures with me. So,
No, we can take that offline.
okay.
Thank you, though. Thank
John,
you.
did you have a question on this?
Well, just a point, no matter how the borrowing was done, even if it's through an enterprise fund, because the enterprise fund could go dry, if you will,
And the township
it's still a
fund.
general obligation of the town
Exactly.
ultimately, so.
Every single expense, every single contract, if one system fails, it's the obligation of the community.
The town, it's like dad co-signs, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee? Article 25, Water and Sewer Department Capital for the new jet truck, $350,000. Any questions or comments from the public on Article 25, the new jet truck? Okay, next item, we have the two F-250 work trucks with plows, also part of Article 25. These are replacements, $154,000. Phil, would you like to cover this?
Sure will. Phil McNulty, Water and Sewer Department Superintendent. So it was actually three vehicles in total, all F-250s or Chevy 3500s, whatever the case may be. Two of them are replacements. They're replacing two diesel trucks from 2014 that we have. That are, the diesel trucks, they have a lot of regen problems. We have to, they're in the shop more than we have them because they're just a nuisance. So each of these trucks have close to 100,000 miles on it. Each of the trucks, we've spent about combined $10,000 in the last couple of years on repairs for them. So for each, if they were running fine, I'd keep them, but they're not running fine. They're just they're in the shop all the time. So
Okay, so you're covering Part B and Part C. You're talking about the two
yeah.
F-250 work trucks with plows replacements, and then you're also talking about one new F-250 work truck with plow that is not a replacement. I just want to be clear to the committee.
Yep.
Okay, any questions from the committee on any of these? Chet, you have a question?
Yes, to Mr. Chairman, so, Mike, are these trucks gonna have the green bodies on the back, you know, the bodies you put all your tools in, things like that? Or is this just gonna be regular pickup truck?
Typically, we get them fully fitted out, including the plow package, so they just,
Now, do we need the plow package? Because we have the truck and the plow that we just open the gates on the.
It's helpful in that it's hard to get contractors to plow, so we can do it ourselves.
So you can for the town also?
Yes, we can do that.
I thought you were gonna do that.
Oh, that was one vehicle.
You have to leave the door open.
Yeah.
We're open till medium.
No, that's, you're right, that's a good question. You're right.
Otherwise, people get suspicious.
So the answer was the water department is plowing for the town or is not?
Yeah, we do, yeah. We always have.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
I do.
Eric?
Just a brief one. I'm looking at the email from the sales rep. Just noticed that they made a suggestion to add a little bit of buffer in case there's some extra expenses, but you know, the article just matches their estimate exactly, so just want to make sure you feel confident that this amount's going to cover it. Okay, that's all.
Elliot, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Phil, what, are these gonna be diesel, or what engine these are gonna have?
Just regular gas, yeah.
Do you know what engine particularly?
Well,
It's not gonna be the turbocharged six-cylinder, is it?
No.
be, convertible red. No, just, you know, you get the 150, the 250, the 350 and so forth.
Well, they have various
150 is too
engines
weak to plow,
options.
so you need at least
Yeah, but
250.
I think he's asking what engine's gonna be in there. Is it the 5.7 or?
I think it's a six-cylinder engine. That's pretty sure.
Well, I hope it's not a six-cylinder turbo.
I think it is.
A V8.
That's nothing.
Is it a V8?
Hopefully,
It
hopefully a
says-
V8.
I hope so.
Usually 250s are.
Again, like you said,
This
they're all
just uses
push.
Two fifties only coming in
They only come in at 8.
You're gonna put it in the old truck.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the committee on items B or C in Article 25? John, you have a question?
The only thing we received on this was an email that said, hey, this is how much they are. Can we get some more detail on usually when we're buying a vehicle, we get something, quite detailed on what's there, and you know what, he wouldn't have had to ask what the engine was, and he wouldn't have had to ask about the plow, because everything would have been on the quote.
John went through the whole team trying to get that, to get that. These guys won't commit. They'll say, like, do you want the car next week?
Thank you.
No, that's the best we could get out.
I can't believe they can't itemize what you're buying.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, when it comes to town meeting, they're gonna ask for that information. More than an email saying, oh, 80 grand for this, 82 for that, and you trade in, you come down to here. I mean. Yeah, I mean,
Can we get the quote, like an actual quote sheet on it then? I think
if they're
it's,
looking to sell, they'll get it to you.
Yeah,
Let me jump in,
exactly.
like, we've always gotten that quote, I've always given that to you.
Yeah.
This time, they stingy with it, so we'll keep trying.
We got a purchasing next year.
any questions? Mark, you have a question? Mark Struck.
Mark Struck. On the 2 trucks that you're replacing, is it just the plow package, or are you getting a plow also?
Replacing both the truck and the plow. So when we trade in the old one, we'll trade in the plow.
Well, no, 'cause, well, I was trying to see about saving some actual money since we're losing some money.
Yeah, but those plows are probably shot.
It seals.
They're not always,
It's plows, no.
they're not always interchangeable, the plows.
That's true.
Okay.
But hydraulic sleeve going.
Okay. Any other,
Well, the plow, not the actual plow.
We need 100 grand.
so we're getting plows on these trucks too then, right? Okay. Any other questions or comments from the committee on these items B or C, Article 25? The work trucks with plows replacements and work truck with plow?
Vaughn.
Oh, Adam.
Yeah, so with the purchasing discussions that we just had, so are there other quotes along with this, and this is the one you chose? Do we spec it out to other vendors?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, and to John's question earlier, that's, we only got an email with basically 2 lines. It wasn't, usually we get a 39-item spec sheet.
Yeah, but did you go to other dealers and get other pricing from
We're
other?
going to, yeah.
We only went to one at this point?
Jamie Voss was, I spoke to 2 different dealers, one actually completely refused to give me a quote. He said, I will not give you a number, it'll be over 18 months.
Wow,
So,
okay.
this is what we could
So
get.
it's just one and only, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, your questions are so reasonable, I feel weird defending you. You deserve exactly what you're asking for. With this new purchasing manager, he's been here 3 weeks, you'll get a whole detailed spec. You'll get what the other prices were, you'll get what the savings from the buyout is. You have a perfect right to ask for that. We'll get that to you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on this? I have a question on this. It says the trade values for the 2014 F-250 pickups, they're only given $3,000 each, because the blue book on that's probably about $7,500 a piece.
I agree.
So that's off quite a bit.
Yeah, like Tom said, I'm not happy with it either.
He's shopping that around now.
So I've already sat down with the new purchasing agent about just exactly this, and we're comfortable with the number. We could do a lot better on the vehicle price and the trade-in.
Yeah, the trade seems really low.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the plow.
Well, I just found out you're trading in the plow tonight too, so.
That's actually,
Yeah.
that's worth at least 50.
Of course, it's a
All right, thank you for that. Any other questions, comments from the committee on this? No. Okay, questions or comments from the public? Article 25, Water and Sewer Department Capital, items B and C, 2 F-250 work trucks with plows replacements, $154,000. Item C, 1 new F-250 work truck with plow, $82,000. Questions from the public? Comments from the public?
Yeah.
Hearing none.
How come one new one costs more than the other 2 when you add the trade-in, and you're buying the same trucks?
No,
Well, you're not, one's a shorter bed, John.
One is,
One's a crew cab.
yes.
oh, does that say that on here?
I
I
picked that up when I read it.
Okay.
Back up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, in here it says, yeah, the 8 foot and 6 foot 8,
Yeah.
never mind.
Okay,
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Gito, please identify yourself for the record, Lou Gito.
Lou Gito, 1261 West Street. You know, if there's a $5,000 difference with the trade-in for each of these vehicles, maybe there's a way for the town to sell these themselves. I mean, my lord, I'd buy one. I'd write her a check right now.
Sold.
Yeah.
I mean,
$10,000 to the member in the corner.
You can deal if you take two.
Trust me, you don't
We had
want one
auction
of the
last
diesel
year.
trucks.
I agree with it. I thought-
That's a good question, though. I mean, maybe someone could answer that
I
down
mean,
there.
you could sell a plow.
I completely agree. This was the price that they got as they were hurrying to finish the warrant. Believe me, that's the starting point for the purchase price, and it's the starting point for the trade-in value. And worst case, we'll sell them all to Lou. But that's the starting point. Now we go to work on it. So hopefully at the town meeting, there'll be an amended motion to reduce the price and increase the trade. That's what I would expect.
Okay. All right, no other questions or comments on this? All right, next item on the list, Article 26, Pratt's Court Water Treatment Improvements, $4,440,000.
Page 23.
Page 23 in the warrant.
Phil McNulty, Water and Sewer Superintendent, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the FinCom. A little bit of history on this article. It was presented last year, and you know, we put together our stuff in January, February.
I thought I recognized it.
Yeah. It was a $1.5 million article for Pratt's Court treatment plant upgrades, which included 3 new wells, generator controls and actuators inside the station, replacing the filter media, largely just due to the operation of a 40-year-old treatment plant to regain the flow that we lost. We get around 130 gallons a minute out of that now. We're permitted for 500 gallons a minute. If we went ahead with that project, we would get that. Problem was, in April of last year, EPA came out with new PFAS draft regulations, moving it from 20 down to 4.
Yeah.
Pratt's Court is routinely tested at around 10 or 11 parts per trillion. So it beats the 20, but it's above the 4. So why go forward with last year's project when we knew we were gonna be facing this PFAS issue? So here we are since then. We've done what they call a PEF, or performance evaluation form, submitted that to Drinking Water SRF folks and DEP for approval. If you make the cut, if you rank, you qualify, they put you on an IUP, which is an intended use plan. By being on that plan, we're able to get up to 38% loan forgiveness and a 0% interest loan. So put the full project out at 4.4 with 38% savings and 0% loan, and the other upgrades are covered by that 38% by virtue of being a PFAS project. So that's what we're looking at.
Okay. Joel, you want to go first on this?
Yeah, let me take a couple of quick questions. First of all, maybe the town manager can answer this. What's the relationship between the town and the Stoughton Housing Authority? Because this is under the control of the Housing Authority, isn't it?
No.
It isn't? Pratt's Court isn't?
This is the
Well.
Oh, the town well at Pratt's Court. Oh, for some
Yeah,
reason I
we're on
thought it was
Article 26, Pratt's Court Water Treatment Improvements, $4,440,000, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for the water treatment improvements.
All right. Well, that's nice to hear. Okay, Phil, I read something that we're gonna get a grant,
Yes.
and the grant is over $4 million, unless I misread that.
So that, you're probably looking at the IUP list.
Yes, that's what I was
This is
looking at,
towns
yes.
that comes out in draft. If you hit the draft, you're 99.9% of the time you're gonna be in the final. It's an open draft. So what I say this number 30% because they call it emerging contaminant, this qualifies for 25% grant. The emerging contaminant in this case is PFAS.
Ah,
And
okay.
then an additional 13% they call environmental justice, just based on the community. So you add those together to get to 38%.
So the rest of it will probably be from a bond.
Yeah, 0%.
We borrow from
0%,
them.
Yeah, we
But it
borrow
is
from
borrowed.
drinking water SRF.
Right,
There's a
0% interest.
All right, so they
Don't talk
provide,
about the packaging
Difference.
material is high, that's what.
After the grant difference.
okay, I think I understand it.
Okay, John, do you have a question?
Just a quick, Phil, because last year when it was appreciated that you pulled it knowing what was coming. Have they finalized their number? Because at the time it was draft, when they were going down to the ridiculous 4.
So,
Did they stay with it?
good question, it's kinda any day now. I get regular emails, updates on a weekly basis from, what they call in the main, all things
Yeah.
water. And from what the literature they're saying is everybody's expecting it.
That it's gonna
a
stay,
slam dunk, yeah.
it'll stay at the 4.
It's gonna be 4.
Okay.
So
I-
rather
I
than deal
was
with
just
3,
curious.
4, or 20, which our goal is 0, so no matter what comes at us.
Yeah,
we're-
yeah. No, I was just curious if they had made any final, like, determination on that.
Yeah, no, good question.
John, we're also in line for the class action lawsuit on PFAS,
Good point.
With, yeah.
So,
which is unrelated to this.
related but unrelated.
Unrelated.
On a side
We're
note,
we're actually signed up for class action and what we call mass action.
Yeah.
So we're in line for both of those. What's gonna come out of it, I don't know, but we're doing our best to, get
Sure.
those covered.
Dave, you have a question on this?
Yeah, Vaughn, Dave Lurie, through you, I just, heard the math and I just got confused, cause you said that none of last year's article was spent yet, so we pocketed that, right?
It was pulled last year.
They
We
withdrew
never
the,
withdrew
they
the
withdrew
motion.
the article.
Okay, so we never had it appropriated, you know?
Correct.
So that gets folded into this.
No,
So-
it never
Well, it
happened.
gets folded in as far as not having that, but having.
Right, we never
this
voted the article.
This replaces all
It
that.
expanded the scope of what was gonna be
Right,
done.
but it's $3 million more
Yes.
than the original last year,
Yes.
is kind of what we're saying.
Yep.
To get to 4 or better, that's where we have to. It costs us 3 times as much to get to, from 20 to 4 or better.
But
That's
it
kind
includes
of-
the PFAS treatment.
Yeah.
And prior to this, we've gone through, we have 3 new wells that were already drilled, they're ready to go, they're approved by DEP, so that's part of what's already been,
Okay.
approved by the state.
Okay, I didn't understand about the polling article, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? Article 26. Mark, you have a question?
Yes. So you're saying that the Pratt's court's usually around 10, 11. You have to get down to 4.
Yes.
With this new improvement and all this stuff, your plan is to get to what? 0. So then even if they drop it to 3 or 2, you're gonna be in compliance.
I think 4 is already pretty.
Or they start measuring it.
They get more
Well,
sensitive
right.
measures,
Yeah, we get better
yeah.
equipment.
Yeah, well, you're not going to 4, you're going to 0.
He knows some people laughing at those are like,
Go for it.
they can measure it until you, they can kill us.
We're gonna be going by 0.
Okay.
Any other questions from the committee on this? Article 26, practical water treatment improvements. Any questions from the public? Please identify yourself for the record.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street, Precinct 3. It may have been stated, the acoustics here are awful, and they did not give me my adaptive listening device. But how old is the plant? Isn't it about 40 years old?
Yes. 39. So the existing well there is, back in the day when it was first built, it used to produce 450 gallons a minute. It's down to 130 because over the years, just the iron and manganese it just packs the screen and you just can't build it. You can rehab the well, you see in the operating budget, we have well rehab, that's what it's for. But you get to the point where you rehab the well and you just get nothing out of it. It'll go up like 20 gallons a minute. It's all done.
Any other questions? Please identify yourself for the record, Mark Zamanian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mark Semanian, Precinct 1. I know that oftentimes you will hear me criticize articles that I'm uncomfortable with. I had a conversation with Phil last year. Much to my chagrin, this is well within my wheelhouse. This is what my son does for a living. And I challenge Phil to think outside the box a little bit and come back addressing all of our problems, not just the failing well, that it was clear it was failing last year. And I want to thank Phil for, I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but who took the time to sort of take a second look at this. He ended up withdrawing the article last year. And last year when we spoke, he kind of said this is probably going to run $4.5 million. He was right on the number. I'm appreciative of your efforts, Phil, on this. It solves all of our problems, not just a small portion of them. So thank you for that.
Good discussion.
Thank you very much for that. Any other questions or comments from the public? Article 26, practical water treatment improvements.
Just
Eric.
one little piece of information for me. Could you say one more time who we would borrow the remainder from?
Drinking water SRF.
Drinking water.
There's an SRF program and then there's a drinking water SRF, which falls under the general umbrella of Clean Water Trust.
Great, thank
I know
you.
it's a little bit.
It gets wonky.
Yeah.
I get it. Thank you.
So they work in tandem, like DEP does they'll review the plans and the technical reviews and conditional approval letters, and they work hand in hand with the borrowing people, Clean Water Trust.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the public on this? No? Okay. Cedar Hill, like I said earlier, will not be appearing here tonight, so we're going to skip past that. They'll be appearing on 3/14. We're down at...
I have a general question if you're at that point.
We're down at any other matters right now?
I have a general question. Mr. Coulter?
Yes, sir.
And,
Phil.
no.
Elizabeth.
Liz. Liz?
Biz.
Phil? We're done with you, Phil.
I mean, we've only just. I don't feel comfortable calling you like your nickname yet.
Sit down.
This has to,
You might have a preference,
Apparently,
though.
Liz,
You might
have
have
you
a
ever, in your past, dealt with the Massachusetts School Building Authority grant program? Okay, on our high school project, you guys have heard me say this, I don't know how many times. On our high school project, we have a final grant payment due of about 2.3 million, okay? The question was asked to Mr. Coulter was, will that 2.3 million, when it hits the town of Stoughton, will it impact the budget or the tax rate? And his answer was no.
Okay, so the final payment from the MSBA, we have an MSBA fund for the building of the school.
Well, one of you, I want to get an answer from somebody.
What about the email?
Not tonight.
We got an email. The
Your
email
question
we
was
got.
what?
It wasn't tonight, that's all.
We sent out a question saying, when this $2.3 million grant hits the town of Stoughton, will it impact the budget or the tax rate? And the answer, I assume was from you, was no, it won't. And I'd like to know why it won't.
What we have to do is when the money comes in, that will go into the school building project. We'll evaluate the balances that are in the school building project, and then we go from there, because it is in its own fund. It's separate from the town fund, the general fund, everything else. So we have to evaluate that. That's already on our agenda to look at for the funding that comes in. I can't answer your question tonight, but I will answer your question as soon as I have one.
I don't remember that question at all. Questions are often answered under my.
I've just. Well, that's why I guess if you had experience with this before, I mean, I've talked to a town accountant in another municipality that had a school project, and what they had was at the end of the project, they had bond anticipation notes, and when they got the final grant, they just paid off the notes. Very clean.
It all depends on what our structure is and how.
And you don't know yet.
No, I'm getting into the weeds, so I will have answers, and it's a convoluted, how is it funded, how is it not funded, and it's a long, it's a short question, long response, and back to
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I might.
I think.
I did hear today that they did get the final closeout document on the high school.
I'm not sure what you
I didn't know if
mean.
you had heard that or not.
I was at that meeting last
Okay.
night, yes, they did.
What does that mean?
It means the MSBA is wrapping up to submit the final payment.
They have to provide a final audit.
Yes.
And that audit has to be reviewed by somebody in the town of Stoughton. and say this audit is correct, that we agree with it, and then we get our money. Are you saying that the audit has shown up?
I said they received the final document. I didn't say anything, I just let you know.
Well,
The
I mean, I've
document has
done
been
a
received.
couple of these projects before, and that's what we're looking for.
We haven't received it yet.
No.
Town said.
The school, and that's who I heard.
And as the project closes up, then we'll go from there, because the school department does have to confirm with us, and the signatures that's gonna have to occur. So once we get the information, we'll move forward.
Okay.
Dave, do you have a
Dave,
question
Vaughn,
on this?
Yeah, fun. I think, for the previous speaker, I don't know, I hear things and I don't know what exactly goes on with the technicalities of that money. But that somehow, because it was voted and everything was passed and everything was finalized, that the money staying in the schools has the potential to be used for another school project. Maybe somebody would find out if that money could be
Not
used
the
for the
final
South
grant
School.
money, I don't think you can.
I don't know, but if it could be rolled over into some other project like the South School, it would be a wonderful thing. I'm not sure
I think
what,
MSBA will dictate that.
yeah.
I think the town should, since they approved the money for the high school, nothing else.
That's correct. We've had this discussion
We've had this
before.
discussion with the former employee.
Yes.
I think MSBA will tell you whether you can, I think the town will dictate whether it will.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
I have an actual.
You know, we don't care if you can, it's some opinions that was voted by the people for a certain purpose, and it should be used for nothing but.
Dave, you have another question on it?
This is a different topic, so, there was a lot of conversation around getting a revenue sheet. And some of the things that, during the previous town accountant, for all the years, the decade plus years, originally what he did, when he provided finance committee with these revenue sheets, is that he would take the last year's revenue and make an estimate on future revenue, and then tell the stakeholders to stay within it. At the beginning, he was like at 90%. He would say, please keep your budget at 90% of
Give me your
projected
email
revenue.
address.
And then they, over time, eventually got to 95%. And I think we were still writing at 95%, and then we had a
Except for two.
shortfall for a couple years, we went to like 97.
For 2 items.
Yeah,
Just 2
well,
items.
just 2 lines of it, yeah, where, and hang on, I just wanna finish, because I have last year's revenue sheet, and it shows, budget amount, and that's the amount that, the finance committee, approved or proposed for FY '24.
Thank you.
The next section, it says, other amounts to be raised, and it goes through like overlays, snow and ice, et cetera. And below that, it has an entire section called estimated revenues and other sources. He never pigeonholed himself or locked himself into a box on how much, but he was able to give us a number based on, he was able to create
And
projections.
we're going to as well, Dave. I hope you can appreciate, Bill left with 2 weeks' notice.
No.
Let me please
Yeah.
make the statement. And so we had to circle the wagons. We hired a company called CLA, the best in the industry. We had them come out and look at all of the work that had been done in the past, and to give us the best revenue estimate they could give us based upon the data in hand and what they knew about what other municipalities are doing. We then held a public information session for the entire public. We invited all town meeting members to come and hear their presentation on, the only topic was revenues. That was the only topic, was revenues. Now, that was 3 months ago? November.
December.
And so a lot has happened since then. And so this is gonna have them in next week, knowing what we know now, to update that revenue estimate at the time. We didn't have Biz, we didn't have Bill.
Okay,
we brought in a professional.
So Vaughn, for you, my concern is that, as, generally stated as it might have been, he had his own formulas for coming up with the data that he provided, but he somehow managed to get the departments to stay within the confines of what he did, and we always ended up okay with staying within parameters of something, but we right now don't have those parameters.
I beg your pardon.
So I don't see
The Board of
the parameters.
Selectmen give us that parameters in their first vote. They told us what our budget can be, they told us what the increases would be, they told us level services. It's not this chief financial officer that gives the department heads parameters. It's a policy statement of the select board that gave us the budget parameters. And we started the process, Mark and I chaired it, within the context of those parameters that the policymakers gave us.
So I also listened to all the meetings. I listened to the meetings, and in the same meetings, both the town and the school department said, we're gonna let the finance committee work out all the flaws that we have, because all these things were going on with moving things were moving so fast that they needed the finance committee to kind of settle everything out. But I don't think that we could do our job unless we get a detailed revenue sheet, because there are certain things that I've been trying to follow that could only be described when I see a detailed revenue sheet. Then I feel that I could do my job better when I have it. And that's why I'm
We'll
just,
have everything we have tomorrow morning.
okay, thank you.
The point's taken.
Yeah.
In the past, I've had 1 year, and in the past, we're given data prematurely. Somebody asked earlier why we kept changing the number, remember that? Because you had a rookie town manager, and we kept changing it because we were dealing with the healthcare trust deficit, and we were trying to figure out how to get through them. But I was told last year that I was a liar, because people had information that changed a week later. I'm never gonna make that mistake again. I'm the one holding it up. But we will give you all the data that we have. All I ask is that you understand it's fluid. But we promised you that thing an hour ago.
I like just something conservative, that
You'll
could be
get what you
with
have.
many caveats as you wanna put in.
You'll get
And
exactly what we
I
have.
wanna just
Okay,
a
it's-
conservative number.
We
Okay.
just went with the revenue. We know
We've kind of covered this to the point now where we can, okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We've covered this part, okay, so, any other matters?
Well, just
Eric?
one comment for the record, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman, through you to our new finance director. Probably noticed there's a good amount of like continuity from one fiscal year to another that we've all become accustomed to, and we're still feeling the disruptions of that Bill's departure caused. So I just personally want to say, welcome, good luck, God bless you. I know you're only 3 weeks and 3 days in, so you're even still figuring out what the shape of what the disruption is and how to restore some of that continuity.
Don't give me 2 more weeks.
And then what's gonna happen?
By the way, we meet again tomorrow.
But thank you for being here and joining the madness, and I am happy to be as patient and accommodating as we need to be while you still find your footing, and I trust that the rest of the committee will be as well.
Well, thank you very much. Jonna, do you have something?
Whether she
Just one
enjoys it
little
or not.
suggestion. If we found someone that was,
Jonna?
yes, if we found someone that was willing to work for a whole year, a whole decade, and not get paid overtime, can we try to find another person?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Oh, that was the on-call thing from
The
earlier.
on-call thing, where the,
It's a
Sewer.
contractual obligation.
I was being facetious.
Okay. Okay, any other matters to cover here?
You can't joke with an accountant. There's
okay.
no.
I thought of a laugh.
Sure, Brad would find it. I would like to make a motion that we continue this public hearing until February 29th at 7 p.m. in the Fitzpatrick Room on the first floor of Town Hall on 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass. And that's my motion.
Second.
In here?
John's got the motion, Laura's got the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
And I would like to, go ahead. Quick. Motion to adjourn. Second.
Oh, I thought we did.
Motion and a second on the floor, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks for watching if you're at home.
2 hours, 16